Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to Hume-Fogg's 30th anniversary reunion. My name is Hume-Fogg, and I'm a member of the class of 2014, as well as president of the Student Government Association. I want to thank you for coming tonight from near and far to commemorate the past 30 years of Hume-Fogg Academic Magnet High School. Because I'm currently a student at Hume-Fogg, I cannot speak to the specific successes of the first 20 or so years of its existence since 1983. But the fact that you have passed down to my class the honor of calling ourselves a magnet school attests to your achievement during your years here. I can proudly tell you, however, that during the past several years, Hume-Fogg has built upon your foundation, which has made possible great accomplishments in the advancement of our school. For the past decade, Hume-Fogg has been consistently ranked among the top 50 high schools in the nation, according to U.S. News and World Report. In 2011, it was named a National Blue Ribbon School of Excellence, in addition to being recognized for excellence in the arts. Hume-Fogg is currently rated as the 37th best high school in America and the #1 ranked high school in Tennessee. This level of achievement is evidenced by the $41 million in scholarships that the class of 2013 accumulated last year, as well as by the 10 National Merit semifinalists whom Hume-Fogg harbors this year. Although these statistics are outstanding, they comprise only a fraction of what makes Hume-Fogg a truly remarkable place. The students here represent a vast variety of cultures and create a learning environment with unique perspectives and talents. Students not only excel at academics, but also at music, athletics, and the arts. Accomplishment is not, however, the defining characteristic of Hume-Fogg students. I believe that what makes Hume-Fogg truly great is the kindness and support that students show to both one another and their community. I run cross country here at Hume-Fogg, and I want to tell you a brief story that illustrates that. We were on a run one morning, and there was a car at the bottom of this hill, and it wasn't moving. And I think the woman was out of gas because she couldn't move, and one of the guys suggested that we move the car. And so, yeah, that's a great idea. So we got around the car as a team, we were pushing this car up this hill, and we're pushing it and pushing it and pushing it for about 15 minutes. It was a lot of fun. And we ended up pushing it about like a mile. And it was a great bonding experience. I thought it was really cool. Hume-Fogg coming together, helping out the community. Hume-Fogg is a place of genuine friendships and one in which acceptance spurs the growth of intellectual pursuit. It is a place where teachers invest themselves around the clock in the betterment of their students and will go the extra mile to ensure their success. I'm proud to be a member of the Hume-Fogg community, and it is a privilege to welcome you back to your cherished alma mater. Thank you again for coming this evening, and I hope you enjoy your time here among friends. I would now like to introduce Mr. Larry Pennington, class of 1988. Mr. Pennington was a member of the Ecology and Spanish clubs while at Hume-Fogg, as well as a member of the basketball team. His favorite subjects were calculus and physics, and he graduated cum laude. After high school, he went on to attend the University of Memphis, where he received a bachelor's degree in accounting and computers in 1993. Today, Mr. Pennington is a managing member of Wilmont and Keaton Construction in Florida. A proud father of 6 children, he recently welcomed a granddaughter into the family. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Larry Pennington.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's even more pleasure to be able to introduce our MC for the evening, one of my longtime best friends, Rupert Birdsong. You guys, I think everyone knew Rupert through the years, but I'm just going to read a section of his bio for you. He was the class of 1987, which he was the first class to attend all 4 years here at Hume-Fogg Academic High School. His club involvement include the baseball card club, exactly, the band, which he played the tuba, and he was also the SGA Speaker of the House for 2 years. As far as sports went, he was one of our most athletic student athletes. He participated both in basketball and track. And in track, in basketball, he was named, he was all district, all region, and all mid-state. And in track, he went to the state in the 200 meters. He was exceptionally fast in everything that he did. His best all around was in awards in Spanish, in the Spanish Fair, the JCO Convention. He attended college at Morehouse, where he obtained the Bachelor of Science in Political Science. He graduated cum laude, magna cum laude, and then he attended Vanderbilt University, where he obtained his jurisprudence degree in law, and where he's currently serving as an attorney in the Los Angeles area, working for a firm that employees that they represent discrimination and civil rights. On a different note about Rupert, it's my pleasure to tell you guys one thing about him. We were talking the other day, and one of our friends, you guys all know him, Dallas Mayberry, referred to him, and I thought that this was such an eloquent representation of Rupert, that even though he played the point guard position on our basketball team, he in much was the point guard that guided many of us here at school in every facet of this education here. He was a motivator. He was someone that stood behind everyone. I don't care what you were or what you did. He participated and he helped everyone to be better. And I appreciate that in Rupert and bringing this together and many other things that we've done throughout the years, because Rupert has been a very active person. And I can tell you right now, he is one of the best Hume-Fogg graduates that has ever come through the doors, and I'm proud to call him one of my best friends. Welcome,
Okay, I wasn't supposed to cry this soon, so forgive me for that. Give me an H. Hey. Give me an F. Hey. Give me an A. Hey. What's that say? Oh, come on! Gosh, has it been that long? Well, it actually has been that long. It's hard to believe. It's hard to imagine that this school opened its doors in terms of the academic school, the magnet program, 30 years ago. 1983. A bunch of brave souls, a bunch of scared souls came into this building, and the teachers didn't have a game plan. They didn't have any idea of what they were going to do with us. They just said, hey, we have these wonderful kids here. We have the green light. We have a mandate to educate these kids. Let's see what they can do. And lo and behold, I think they did an excellent job. I think what you see here is a product of people who are committed to learning and committed to being excited about learning. And that's what education is about. It's not about a test. It's about learning, being critical, and challenging authority in a meaningful way, and just to make a difference in the world. And I think we all received that experience. I know I did while I was here. So grateful that you guys are here. We're happy to see everybody who's come from far and near, and we're going to try to move this program along. I know we have some time constraints with some people. I know we are competing with a festival of books in town, but we're going to do our best to try to have a good time and to walk down memory lane. So if you look at the program, we're going to try to go right through. Our first speaker will be Mr. Ed Kendall, who is a graduate of pro con in Tennessee State University. He served on the Metro School Board for 27 years, wherein Hume-Fogg was within his district. And he's an attorney, a civil rights activist, and a recent author. And he has come here this evening to talk about the history of Hume-Fogg in terms of how Hume-Fogg came into being 30 years ago. So with that said, Mr. Kendall, please join me on the stage.
I used to get up here a lot faster. I want to, first of all, congratulate you on this 30th reunion of the school. I know it's, what, the 27th year of your graduating class. Since you started in 1983, I think my math is right about that. But Dr. Smith called me and asked me if I would come. She called me a couple of days ago, and I said, well, what do you want me to say? And she said, well, why don't you talk about kind of the history of how Hume-Fogg came into being. Well, it came into being, those saying there's a silver lining in every dark cloud. Well, the dark cloud back in the 50s and 60s and 70s actually was the whole issue of segregation. Of course, Hume-Fogg, as you all know, I'm sure you know the history of the school, was the first public school in Nashville. Started in 1855. And then in 1942, it became a vocational technical school, which it remained until it became a magnet school. But the Brown decision in 1954, as we all know, held separate and equal as unconstitutional. And Nashville, and of course the court said you must desegregate with all deliberate speed. So Nashville took the position that they would do it 1 year at a time, starting with the first grade. And that was in 1956, around 1956. In around 1962, 63, we became a metropolitan government, combining the county and city, which changed the complexion of how the school system looked at that time. But even up until around the late 1970s, well, the late 1960s, most of the schools in Nashville, even though some were desegregated, for the most part, many of them were not. The schools like I went to, and by the way, that was Pearl High School, not Pearl Cone. I wish I had the opportunity to go to Pearl Cone, but that would have been, I'd been a much younger man. In late 1960s, the plaintiffs went back to court. Of course, it had been ruled that we had to move forward and by the district court here. But in the late 1960s, around 1969, 1970, the plaintiffs went back to court and sued the Metropolitan Public Schools to further desegregate the school system, which meant that there were several schools, especially in the outer areas of the city, in the suburban areas, which were not effectively desegregated. Most of the plan, well, there was a cross-town busing plan that was approved in Mecklenburg, in the Black Mecklenburg school system in North Carolina. And Nashville pretty much adopted that plan. Metro had introduced a different plan. Judge Wiseman had approved that plan, but it went to the appellate court, and the appellate court overturned it and sent it back and said, no, we've got to do better. So what happened was the plaintiffs and the Metro schools got together and they developed a plan of crosstown busing. Well, nobody, actually, black or white, and of course, during that era when you talk about diversity in the city, primarily we're talking about black and white. Now, as we know, we have a large population of Hispanics and others in the community, which has changed the complexion of that. But when they went back to court and adopted the 1971, is when it came into effect, we had a mass exit of white students from the school system. About 20,000 students that 1 year left Metro schools and went to private schools and parochial schools, and some of them even moved out of the county. But that continued up until the late 70s, the plaintiffs went back to court, and actually the school system did too, to try to modify the plan. Because nobody was really that pleased with the crosstown busing as we had it at that time. It was a little more brutal than it for African American kids, the young kids in the elementary grades were bused out. They closed practically every elementary school in the inner city at that time. They closed some of the high schools, but I think North High School lasted a couple more years, 3 or 4 more years per. But in the late 70s, back in court again. Well, at that time, they came up with what they call an agreement in principle. That was what the school system was going to operate under. And it modified, it still had the busing plan, but it modified it a great deal and relieved a lot of the schools from the harshness of the original busing plan. That plan, in effect, did much of the same thing. It bused the younger African American students out. It bused some of the suburban kids into 5th and 6th into the inner city, and then 7 and 8 was in sort of the periphery